past week or so, I was able to play through Cyberpunk 2077's Phantom Liberty expansion. Of course, with patch 2.0 in the background, and my god, did I have fun with this one. So code for the DLC was provided by CDPR, but there were some restrictions. It seems like for all of the Phantom Liberty reviews going live today, we are not able to show our own captured gameplay, but instead we're using the footage provided by CDPR, and we could share some of the screenshots we took as we were playing through the expansion. And let me tell you, Phantom Liberty is amazing. I had so much fun playing this expansion, just having Update 2.0 as the backdrop with tons of new features and mechanics enhance this in such an incredible way. And although I had a blast with this expansion, I wouldn't be shocked if not everyone likes it just as much as me, because there is a bit of a departure from the typical Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay style here. Because at its core, Phantom Liberty truly feels like James Bond the game. As I hit the halfway point in the story, it hit me like, oh, I have basically just been role-playing as James Bond for this entire time. And let me tell you, Phantom Liberty is the best James Bond game I've ever played. So without getting into spoilers, because this will be a spoiler-free review, the core premise of Phantom Liberty is the president of the new United States of America's space plane was shot down and is now crash-landed in a new district of Night City known as Dogtown. One of the president's top advisors or agents, or really just their super helpful netrunner named Songbird, is able to reach out to us through the relic, and that's how you kick off the story. You're in enemy territory trying to save the president. And this is why Phantom Liberty may not call to everyone. This is a story where you are a spy. The vast majority of the gameplay here is going to be sneaking around, trying to get into bases, having prolonged talks with other spies or even other NPCs, trying to figure out their true motivations, and of course, going undercover to just get some info. And for me, I found the gameplay loop and the core premise of this expansion to be so much fun. The talking for me was the best part of Phantom Liberty. This is an expansion with some incredibly powerful and strong characters. Not only in the game world, but also on screen. They have an incredible presence and true depth that can be really explored as you do have extensive conversations with basically all of the main characters. Solomon Reed, played by Idris Elba, probably gets the most screen time in this one, and the other major players are going to be Songbird and another spy named Alex. And to a lesser degree, you have the president herself, as well as Kurt Hansen, the current ruler of Dogtown, in the background. Each of the major characters here have their own dark past, motivations for why they're helping out on this current mission, and as you play through the story, you will slowly start to peel back the layers of that character's true motivations. And at points, this can be genuinely hard because this expansion does such a good job at not making it clear who you should or shouldn't trust. Constantly, as I was playing, I wanted to rewind the conversation to look for clues and just to make sure I was making the right choice. And CDPR gives you a ton of opportunities to learn more if you want. Just right off the bat, there's a ton of optional dialogue to really get into some of the characters' backgrounds. But also, sometimes when ending a quest and leaving, you could just kind of hang out and listen to some of the main characters continue a conversation without you to learn a bit more about how they're feeling. But there's also going to be a bunch of texting in this one, and this felt super organic. Just after a major event or doing some cool spy stuff, you'll be able to text with some of your other agents to discuss what happened, how it went down, and how you're all feeling as a result. Throughout this expansion, I was constantly second-guessing myself. When Solomon Reed says he wants to help out for X reason, is that the truth? Do I trust him and believe him, or is he just a good spy? Because, yeah, he is a good spy, so he might be lying. While playing Phantom Liberty, I constantly went back and forth on certain characters internally. I think this really speaks to the quality of the writing from CDPR here. I was able to see both sides of their motivations for a lot of characters to the point where I really didn't know who I could trust right up until the end. There were moments in this expansion where I basically felt like, okay, I'm just going to take a leap of faith and hope this person doesn't screw me over because I'm going to put all my cards on the table here. And all the while in the background is Johnny Silverhand. He'll butt in to give his own opinion on what is going on and basically just give us some rocker guidance from within our own head. As well as Johnny Silverhand does get some nice moments in this one. He speaks from experience on certain topics, and you do get the opportunity to learn a bit more about his past. I feel like in this expansion, Johnny Silverhand had fewer of those one-off snarky comments and more deep and prolonged conversations where you could really go back and forth with him for a while. I found basically all of the characters in Phantom Liberty to be exceptional, but Idris Elba as Solomon Reed is incredible here. I truly think this might be my favorite character in Cyberpunk 2077 overall, not even just the expansion. And although Phantom Liberty definitely does feature a lot of talking and back and forth, there are also some epic spy moments. The backdrop of all of this is you're in in a new militia-controlled district with Dogtown, this ruled by Kurt Hansen, and his presence is felt. He feels like a larger-than-life overlord in Dogtown. All the while, you're going to get into car chases with his troops, sneak into several buildings owned by him, and even interrogate other NPCs within a casino as you're standing there playing roulette. And in one of the missions, you'll have to go undercover, assuming a different identity, and in the process, your backstory will be tested, so you have to make sure you actually know it, or you'll just flat out fail the mission. Some of the set pieces here are so much fun and really makes it feel like you're in a spy movie, whether this be crazy gunfights to just waiting around at a party trying to gain intel with a ton of notable NPCs around you. And don't worry, there are even special gadgets and secret hideouts and safe houses in Phantom Liberty. One thing Phantom Liberty does really well is choice and somewhat of the consequence that follows that. CDPR really expanded your opportunities to fail here. There were numerous moments where you could just make a choice and lose. Would this mean you are found out and immediately killed, or even at one point I just said I don't want to help you anymore to the president, and I had the mission outright fail for me, and it seems like the main story was just over there. I was able to continue on and do whatever I want in Dogtown separately. CDPR does a good job at giving you options when it comes to either being a stealthy spy or going guns blazing. There are quite a few moments where there's this massive enemy force in front of you, and of course, in the movie, they just sneak around them, but thankfully this is a video game, and if you want to fight your way through, you can do that. You can have some really epic combat moments where it feels like you're taking on the entire army in this expansion. And in one of those moments, I did go against Solomon Reed's wishes, and I went guns blazing, but later on, I found a couple of guards in the building I just infiltrated staring very closely at me, like they knew I had just broken in, and even overheard several discussions about a break-in occurring, so it does seem like the game somewhat accounts for those moments and how you proceed. But this expansion doesn't forget who you are in Night City. A core component of this expansion is you have a relic inside your head that is slowly killing you, and you are desperately trying to find a solution to that. At points, it almost felt like Phantom Liberty did a better job at creating urgency over your relic problem compared to vanilla Cyberpunk 2077, as well as I had a ton of unique pieces of dialogue thanks to my Corpo start. It seems like this will apply to other life paths as well. It's not like using the Corpo lines opened up a completely new path for dialogue, but there was a lot of moments where I could reference being a Corpo. In Phantom Liberty, I truly felt like a mercenary who used to be a Corpo, where a lot of the time in vanilla Cyberpunk, I just feel like a mercenary. The main story of Phantom Liberty is a pretty good length. It'll take you between 12 and 15 hours depending on how exactly you play. There are a bunch of opportunities to let NPCs talk more if you want, or even just take the long way around instead of going in guns blazing, and CDPR did a great job at integrating the story into the rest of Dogtown. Via story moments, you'll meet some new vendors or even be tasked with doing other activities around Dogtown. And during this, you'll be introduced to Mr. Hands, which is the Dogtown fixer. This character was super interesting in their own right, and some of the side gigs in Dogtown were major pieces of content. Dogtown has a lot of serious moments, but there's also moments where you're just being held up by a 7-year-old asking for 1,000 eddies. During my time in Dogtown, I really focused on the main quest, so that's largely what I'm talking about here, but there is a ton of side content as well. There are 17 new gigs, but also new repeatable activities like grabbing those airdrops that are going to crash around and be heavily guarded, or these new repeatable car missions, which are a blast. You'll find cars scattered around Dogtown and basically have to drive them to a safe area for a fixer, but oftentimes taking the car will alert somebody and a car chase will ensue. With Update 2.0, cars handle way better now, but also sound better, and of course you have weapon systems you can use in them. The car missions do truly break down to you just driving from point A to point B, but they are still a ton of fun, and patch 2.0 plus these car missions really feel like the Night City sandbox is finally being embraced, and I loved it. And to underpin all of this, there's going to be a bunch of new weapons, vehicles driving around, some of which you can get for yourself, and also the relic skill tree to seriously enhance your cyberware. So overall, I think for the vast majority of people, if you enjoyed Cyberpunk 2077's base story, you're going to really like Phantom Liberty. While the core story is definitely a character thriller, which may not appeal to everyone quite as much, it's a really well done character thriller, and I was engaged with this main story the entire time. And while Phantom Liberty's core story, the main story, may only take you about 13 hours, there is a ton more to do in Dogtown. This is truly a district with its own identity, and there are a ton of other stories and things to discover. And at the end of the day, if you're somebody who did want James Bond the video video game, Phantom Liberty is going to make you incredibly happy. And as of right now, I had a ton of fun with this expansion. Honestly, some of the most fun I've ever had with Cyberpunk, and I definitely recommend you check it out for yourself. Going forward, I'm going to have a deeper dive on some of the Update 2.0 features so I can properly show you them with some gameplay, and the patch is coming out tomorrow, so I'll have a deep dive on everything that is added. So hey, thanks for watching again, and get subscribed because trust me, a ton more Cyberpunk content is coming.
Stay back! Where's Gaspar? Tell me!
Chill. Gun down. Let's talk.